My name is Alan Otenyo from CPF, and today I have a very exciting guest who's going to talk to us about something that is very new in the market and something that we've been talking about concerning the real estate sector. So my guest today is Esther Karegi, who heads the agency division under Laser Property Services. She's a licensed and practiced real estate professional and also a full member of the Marketing Society of Kenya. Karibu sana, Esther.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah. So let's look at it from the whole affordable housing project like that is happening across the country. Like we've been hearing the president talking about a lot of affordable housing projects that are coming, and in his recent launch he mentioned something about like tenant purchase scheme. So like I've been hearing a lot of tenant purchase scheme, so maybe you can enlighten us and tell us what exactly is it.
Thank you, Alan. Alan, you may have noticed in the past few years that the property market is not as vibrant as it once was in terms of the numbers that are churning from the market. Some time back, you would get a developer putting up a development and buyers will come in, cash buyers, and within 90 days, the transaction is done. By then, we had external forces. Our Somalia border was open. We had Sudanese coming into the country, and we had a lot of inflows from externally. But of late, that is not quite the case. So what we have faced is that there seems to be some sort of an oversupply in the market. And because of the oversupply, and everybody wants to own housing, developers had to become creative, because you say you're going to keep your 90-day payment plan, then you won't find people coming in to buy, because not so many people can afford that 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 million within 90 days. But you put in a payment plan that allows people to buy over, say, 5, 10, 15 years, then it reduces the barriers to entry into property and opens the market for many more people to get in. If you've listened to the news, most of the times they talk about we have a deficit of 150,000 units every other year. Some statistics that I have some bit of challenges with, because it's been 150,000 for the last 7 years of my life.
Looking at it from that point as well, how can you have a deficit and you're having an oversupply? So I don't know how. Exactly. Like the math is not mathing there.
The math is not mathing there. I like that. With this issue of 150,000 units, we are looking at the people that require housing, but we are not thinking in terms of can they afford it. So yes, we have 50, 70, 100 people coming into CPF as new staff, for example, in 1 year. But can these people afford these houses that are in the market? Maybe not. So how do we make it possible for, say, Alan, who's coming in and probably this is his first job and he wants to own property? How do we make it possible for Alan, who can't access 4 million in 90 days, to access it? And that is how the tenant purchase idea came in. So with tenant purchase, it's just the same process of purchasing, only that it gives you a much longer payment period, as opposed to what used to be, you pay within 90 days, sometimes 120. Those generous land developers would give it 1 year. But now with tenant purchase, it gives you up to 15 years.
Okay. Is there a difference between tenant purchase and rent to own? Because I think there's kind of like, I find it, or maybe it's similar, or it's the same thing.
It's used interchangeably. If you listen to many people who talk about rent to own and tenant purchase, it sounds very similar and it sounds like more or less the same thing. But for me, I would describe it a bit different, especially given my experience in the market and the projects that I have been able to put across in the market. With tenant purchase, you come in, pay in a deposit, and then you pay over 15 years while you are in the house. What you are paying is part of the purchase price and interest on the property. So part of the purchase price and interest on the balance of the purchase price. Some tenant purchase schemes, they do part of the purchase price and a part of the rent. For me, rent to own would be a case where I can't afford the property right now, but I really want to get the property. I don't want to miss house number 15 because of where it's located. So I rent house number 15, and I will live in house number 15 during the period of my rental until such a point when I can afford to buy it. Now, when I get to a point when I can afford to buy it, then I start the process of purchasing the unit. Immediately I'm done with purchasing, the letting contract is invalidated, and in its place we have the purchase agreement taking over. So rent to own is ideal for people who are expecting some cash flows to come in and they are not yet ready to commit to a contract because they've not yet touched the money that they're anticipating. But for tenant purchase, it's for people whose cash flows are not coming in bulk at once, but they are sure, I'll get this consistent income for the period of the tenant purchase, whether it is a 3-year, 5-year, 10-year, 15 years. Some are doing up to 20 years.
And doesn't that sound like a mortgage?
You are right. It does sound like a mortgage. And in essence, it's almost like a mortgage, more or less like it. The difference in this case is we are not sending you to a third party, to the bank, to get money. In this case, you are getting the money from the developer. So it's not with a mortgage, you come, we give you an offer, you take it to the bank gives the developer money, you are left with the bank paying the bank. In this case, it is the developer who is giving you the house, then you pay developer in bits. So there is no bulk money that will go anywhere. With a mortgage, we will be paid in full. So you end, the relationship with the developer is done because we get you a title, hand over the title to you, and you're left with the bank. Because now the title is in the name of the bank and Alan. But in a tenant purchase, it is a developer saying, I've used my money to put up this building, but I'm in no particular hurry to get all of it at once. I want to give Alan an opportunity to live in this house. So they give you an opportunity to buy it over a longer period. So what would be the benefit of tenant purchase vis-a-vis mortgage? If you're getting a mortgage, first, you'll require to pay quite a number of other levies and other small things. 1% insurance here, 2% negotiation fee there, 3% drafting of something else. There's some costs here and there that you'll be required by the bank to pay before you can access the property. There's valuation fees, small payments here and there that you'll be required to pay. On the tenant purchase side, we don't need a valuation because the property belongs to the developer who is giving you an opportunity to pay over time. So you don't need a valuation to be done. So that's one of the difference. 2, with mortgage, they ask for quite a lot. Let's say you're in business and your money is a bit, haphazard.
Yeah.
And you're not quite able to showcase that, you don't have your books in place. But you have the money in the account, but you don't have the books to show for it. So tenant purchase gives you flexibility because we won't be so rigid in terms of the requirements that are required for you to get into a relationship with us. Why is that? With the bank has a lot to lose. If the bank gives you the money and you are unable to pay, the bank has a lot to lose because they have to start putting your property on auction. Something you've seen, the papers are full of properties on auctions that are not moving. But in our case, if you're unable to pay, we simply end our relationship, put in another buyer or put in a tenant in the house. The house is in the developer's name. So the developer has nothing to lose. They have not yet transferred it to your name.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if they've not yet transferred it to my name, what do I get when I sign up for tenant purchase?
What you get is a tenant purchase agreement, which then is what you use until such a point when you are done with the payments and the transfer instruments are drawn and executed. At that point, then now you get your ownership documents. But prior to the ownership documents, all you will get with you is your tenant purchase agreement.
Now, let's say now, for example, I have a tenant purchase agreement, then I've paid for, let's say, 5 years, and then I find another property that I like more than the one that I'm currently sitting in. So is it possible for me to terminate the one that I have, and what is the procedure like for terminating now the tenant purchase as opposed to now a mortgage?
It varies from developer to developer. I've dealt with several developers. Some of them, their terms for tenant purchase are very different. Whether it is exit clause or even the interest, the amount, and whether it is variable or fixed, all those change from developer to developer. But for this question, allow me to answer it specifically using the properties that are being sold by Lap Trust and by Laser Property. If you terminate the agreement, which is something I really have to counsel my buyers long before they sign up, you stand a lot to lose, because you'll only get back your money that you've paid, less 10% deposit, less interest paid, less service charge collected, and any other costs like insurance that went into your payments. So for instance, in year one, let's just take a practical example. Freedom Heights, you take a 3-bedroom apartment. The price of the unit is 14.2. Your deposit will be 1.42. Your balance of purchase price will be 12.78 million. So for year one, if we take 12% interest for year one, for quick math, let's work with 10% interest. Year one, your interest will be 1.2780. 1.2780. That is year one. You are working with 153,382 per month. So if you multiply 153 for 1 year, it will come to give or take 1.5 million. So if you have 1.5 and 1.2 has gone into interest, so if you paid us 1.5 in installments, we can only refund 300.
That's a very huge loss.
So it's something I warn my buyers that as you come into tenant purchase, you have to be very sure that you can make it. You have to be very sure. Personally, I go way beyond our 30% rule and check to see that you have other sources of income that can sustain your tenant purchase. If you don't, I don't encourage. Because should you be unable, if let's say your only source of income is say salary, and you are working with the 30% rule, so you're at the very edge of your 30% rule, the very edge, and God forbid you lose your job because of COVID or anything else, you see it will be a very painful process, because first your 10%, your 1.42 million gone down the drain. Then the interest you have paid, gone down the drain. Then the insurance that you have been paying, gone down the drain. But if you have other sources of income, at least you are confident that every end of year I have a bonus coming, I have this coming from my business, I have my spouse's income is supplementing. So if you're taking a 15-year tenant purchase, my advice is always be sure you can close this before 7 years. I don't advise people to take the 15-year one. It becomes quite pricey. If you can do it, take the 15-year to allow you smaller installments. However, pay it sooner. Don't stick to your minimal payment. Don't stick to the bare minimum. Work with your maximum payment possible. Yeah.
And now if you pay it sooner, will you be able to save on the interest?
Significantly so, because our interest is based on reducing balance. It's on reducing balance. So if, let's say you start with us on a tenant purchase this month, 3 months down the line, something opened up, God was gracious to you, you got windfall, you have your 14 million in cash, come and pay, clear it off. You'll only have paid interest for 3 months. But if you stay with it for 15 years, every other month, it is earning 1%. Every other month, 1% of the balance. And
So
these are
that's
huge
12%
sums.
per annum.
Yes, 12% per annum. 12% is quite generous. I would say Lab Trust is the only developer I know who's doing 12% as we speak. NSSF are doing 15% on their tenant purchase. They were the first ones, by the way, to start on tenant purchase way back. And then there's NHC. NHC are doing something more than 12. I'm not sure, but I think should be around 15% also. And many other private developers that I know of who are doing 14, 15, 16, 14, 15, 16. So Lab Trust, for Freedom Heights, we have the cheapest tenant purchase product in the market. It's much cheaper than mortgage.
And speaking of Freedom Heights, what kind of houses do you have that someone can get on tenant purchase?
We have the 2, 3, and 4 bedroom apartments. So the 2 bedroom goes for 11.4, but unfortunately, Alan, I don't have any remaining. I'm fully sold on the 2 bedroom. Very, very popular both on rental and the sale side. And then I have the 3 bedroom, equally popular, but because they are also quite a number in the project. So while they are popular, you'll still get a few units available. The 3 bedroom is 14.2, and you can get it on tenant purchase, 12% interest. The monthly installment will be 153,382 per month. But I need you to remember, I don't like selling it to somebody who wants to pay bare minimum. It will be very expensive. It's only ideal for someone who knows their cash flows are coming in, let's say every 5 months, every 6 months, every 1 year. Yes. Then we have the 4 bedroom. 4 bedroom, I only have about 2 units left on tenant purchase, going at 17.1. Your monthly installment will be 184,000.